right, Ben. The next thing that we're going to now is the buses and the routing for the buses. I guess we can start with that over here in this section. So we've got two strips set up here, and each one of these is activated by these buttons, is it not?
Right. That button operates to send the sound on that track, that stereo track, over to Mixbus 1, and it's color-coded yellow because we've chosen yellow for the color of Mixbus 1.
Okay.
And it also has a knob next to it. So, for example, if we were to put a reverb on Mixbus 1, then you could adjust the level of the send from this track over to the reverb with that knob.
Okay, yeah. Do you want me to do that?
Actually, that would be a great idea, yeah.
Okay, so let's put a reverb in there. And we'll go down here to, we'll put an EMT 250 in there. Okay, let me just open it up and make sure, take the wet off. And take it down a little bit. All right, so it's in place. Now what would you like me to do?
Great. Well, you could play some audio and we'll listen to it through the reverb, I guess.
All right.
I saw you opening the plug-in window a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's useful to do that because you want to see the layout of that plug-in just like the graphical, just like the physical piece of gear.
Yes.
But if you were just wanting to balance your wet and dry levels, I would suggest that you leave this one with the wet mode all the time, which you have it.
Hang on, I'll put it in wet mode right now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in wet.
Okay. And now it's a balance between the wet and dry level of your guitar tracks. You just choose how much to send from the mix bus.
All right. Well,
because you're always going to have your dry signal going to the master bus. Well, I say all. We have it turned on, so we'll have that. But why don't you bring in the reverb level by adjusting the mix bus send.
Sure put you in a cave fast, eh? That's very cool. It's very cool to have that right at your fingertips and not have to actually open that up in order to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's very cool. And of course, you've got all these other controls laid out here without having to actually open the plug-in up, which you have to do with all the other DAWs, right? And you can make changes to these. You can, if you're not using one of these, you can actually right-click on that and go and pick something else. Say you just wanted to have a power button. You can pick one, and then you can just turn it off and on with the power button without having to open and close it. Hang on, I'll play it here. Really hear it more. There you go. Is there anything else that you want to talk to the folks about when it comes to the actual routing and the trim level here, or we've covered it?
Well, I think it bears repeating that we have 8 of those Mixbus sends, and each track can assign to any or all 8 of them. And when they go through the plugins on those tracks, they'll be time corrected to accommodate for the plugins on those tracks. And you've also got the master bus assigned, which is the blue light at the bottom. So you could assign to 8 reverbs and the master bus, and all of that will be time aligned and sent out to speakers at the same time, so that it sounds great
Automatically.
Right.
Yeah.
So we could just to drive the point home, you could turn off that master bus.
Okay.
For this track, and maybe turn on bus 2.
Okay, just bus 2. Okay.
Yeah, or anything like more is better, and then roll through that a little bit.
Okay, let's do that. So you immediately see the signal going into all of these buses. As soon as you, and then you can quickly turn off the routing by just simply clicking on the buttons, which...
Right, that's opposed to the normal DAW method of doing things where you have to go create a bus and then make a send to it and then turn the send on. It's a multiple step process. This is more like the live mixing that people used to do on a board in a console, a board in a studio, where if you want to add some reverb to something, you just reach up and turn on the aux send that feeds the reverb. It's a one-step procedure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that this is, in terms of making your workflow slick, this is really, really a nice tool.
So now you're sending only to the reverb and not the master bus, and we're hearing only the wet signal.
Yeah. Now you're hearing both. Now you're just hearing the wet. And now here's just a clean signal.
That's right.
Okay.
And I think this is fairly obvious, but to the left of the master bus button, you've got your left-right pan.
Okay, you want to give that a try here?
Sure.
Yep. It's left and right, all right.
Yeah, you'll notice that actually adjusts the send into the mix buses as well. Each of the mix bus sends is post left-right pan. Now, I do know that UAD EMT250 is a that's going to reduce the amount of stereo spread we hear because that's a stereo reverb, and the reverb's coming out both sides, so it's confusing the issue a little bit. But what we're sending to that reverb is panned hard left and hard right.
Yes, and you can still really hear that. Is there any other reverb that might be a better in terms of demonstrating that?
No, it's great. I love it.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Where do you want to go next with this? We want to move over here and talk about some of the details of the bus. The bus here. I notice that you've got not only all these controls here, but you've got a set of EQ here, and a number of things below it. So do you want to go through that?
Yeah, that'll be great.
All right. So now, why did you place a simple EQ on the bus like this? What was the purpose of doing that when you've got EQ, of course, on all of your different tracks?
Well, when you subgroup things together, for example, you might want to add a little bass. Let's say that you made a drum subgroup that has the kick and the snare and the hi-hat and the overheads and all those things, and you just want to add some bass to that whole mix. You don't want to have to go turn knobs on all the individual tracks necessarily. So this is one place to do some tone control. If the producer in the room or whoever is making these decisions says, the drums really need to be brighter, you can immediately reach to this high tone control, give it a little tweak of a few dB, and the drums are all brighter. Okay. It also works extremely well in the case of a reverb like we're using here, where you have a reverb send. And if the reverb maybe has too much mid-range energy that's competing with the lead vocal, then you can turn down the mid-range. Or if it has too many, if the reverb is causing too much low-end mud, then you can turn the lows down on this reverb bus without having to open the plugin and find the control to roll off the lows. So it just brings a lot more things immediately accessible.
Yes.
You'll notice that these tone controls are a lot more subtle than the track tone controls. The track tone controls go plus or minus 15 dB, and they have sweepable frequencies, and they're intended to really do surgery on a signal. If you've got a problematic thing that you're trying to fix, you might use those track EQs. But now, when you come to the buses, it's more about general tone controls. If you had to do some surgery here, you could. You can always go instantiate an EQ plugin and do any kind of crazy thing you want. But most of the time, at this stage of the mix, you're looking at broader tonal type things. So now you've got your groups and your reverbs, you're mixing in the buses now, and you're just doing subtle things like bringing up the mid-range a little bit in the guitars, or bringing the mid-range, down in the drums to make more room for those guitars and vocals, or all those kind of things that are very common in pop, rock, country, blues types of mixing. It's just put right in front of you.
Yes, that's a big deal. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you've done here is a big deal when it comes to actual producing and inside the box. It's giving you a lot of the analog tools that you used to have on a console, which most people can neither afford now or would even really know how to use.
Right.
Unless they've been through an engineering program.